April 15th, 1946, Tuscany, Italy, what's left of my farm. I stand in the ruined vineyard, looking at vines that haven't produced grapes in 3 years. The morning sun is warm on my face, but I feel cold, empty. My hands, farmers' hands, calloused and strong, shake as I hold the letter from the commune. Tax assessment. They want money I don't have for land that produces nothing. Behind me, the farmhouse my grandfather built in 1889 is missing half its roof. The barn is a pile of charred wood. The olive grove is full of shell craters. And my family is gone. If you want to know what it's like to lose everything to war, to hate the people who destroyed your world, and then watch those same people give you back hope, hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and comment below. Could you accept help from your enemies? Let's find out together. My name is Russo. I'm 42 years old. I'm a farmer, or I was. I don't know what I am anymore. June 1940. Journal entry. Mussolini declared war today. Everyone in the village is celebrating. Italy will be great again, they say. I don't celebrate. I know what war means. My father died in the last one. War means death and hunger and destroyed fields. But I say nothing. In fascist Italy, silence is survival. I wrote those words 6 years ago. I wish I'd been wrong. Let me take you back. Let me tell you about the Tuscany you don't see in tourist photographs. The Tuscany of war and occupation and starvation. The Tuscany that died between 1943 and 1945. The Tuscany I'm trying to resurrect from ashes. Summer 1940. My farm, near Montepulciano. Before the war, my farm was beautiful. 30 hectares of rolling hills between Florence and Siena. Vineyards producing Sangiovese grapes for Chianti. Olive groves that had been in my family for 4 generations. Wheat fields, vegetables, chickens, pigs. Everything we needed to live well. My wife Anna and I had built a good life. We had 3 children, Giuseppe 14, Maria 11, and little Paolo 8. We weren't rich, but we had enough, more than enough. The land was generous, the weather was kind, the market in Montepulciano paid fair prices. Life was good. Then Mussolini decided Italy should be an empire, should conquer Africa, should ally with Hitler, should go to war. The first years weren't so bad for us. The fighting was far away. North Africa, the Balkans, Russia. Young men from the village were conscripted and sent away. Some came back, many didn't. But the farm continued. We produced food. Life went on. Then 1943 came, and everything fell apart. July 1943, Allied invasion of Sicily. The Americans and British invaded Sicily in July 1943. Suddenly the war wasn't far away anymore. It was in Italy, coming north. In the village, people whispered. Some said the Allies would liberate us from fascism. Others said they were invaders, no different from the Germans. The fascist officials, the ones who'd strutted around in their black shirts for 20 years, suddenly looked nervous. On July 25th, the fascist Grand Council voted to remove Mussolini. The king had him arrested. Everyone thought the war was over. Italy would make peace with the Allies. We'd survived. We celebrated in the village that night. Wine flowed. People danced. For one beautiful evening, we believed the nightmare was ending. We were fools. September 1943, German occupation. When Italy surrendered to the Allies in September, the Germans invaded from the north. They weren't allies anymore. They were occupiers, and they were angry that we'd betrayed them. German troops moved into Tuscany. They took over the roads, commandeered buildings, seized food and supplies. They were preparing defensive lines, the Gothic Line they called it, across the mountains of northern Italy. They would make the Allies fight for every kilometre, which meant my farm, sitting on good roads between Florence and Rome, became strategically important, which meant I was about to lose everything. The first German soldiers arrived at my farm in October 1943. An officer and 20 men. The officer, a captain named Schneider, spoke some Italian. "This farm is requisitioned for military use," he announced. "You will continue farming. You will provide food for German forces. You will be compensated, with worthless occupation currency, with promises that meant nothing." "What if I refuse?" I asked. Stupid question, but I was angry. Schneider smiled, not friendly, cold. "Then your family becomes unnecessary. Farms need farmers. But farmers are replaceable. You understand?" I understood. So I farmed for the Germans. I handed over grain, vegetables, wine, olive oil, chickens, pigs, everything. They took what they wanted and left us with barely enough to survive. My children were hungry. My wife grew thin. But we were alive. That had to be enough. Winter 1943-1944, partisan activity. As the German occupation tightened, resistance groups formed. Partisans, men who'd escaped conscription, former soldiers who'd deserted, anti-fascists who'd been hiding for years. They hid in the hills and forests, conducting sabotage, ambushing convoys, gathering intelligence for the Allies. The Germans responded with brutality, reprisals. For every German soldier killed, they'd execute 10 Italian civilians. Entire villages were burned. People were hanged in the town squares as warnings. "Don't help the partisans," the signs said. "This is what happens to traitors." The partisans came to my farm one night in January 1944. 6 men with rifles. Young men, hungry men, dangerous men. "We need food," their leader said, "for the cause, for Italy." I gave them what I could spare. Not because I believed in their cause. I believed in keeping my family alive, but because refusing was suicide. The partisans killed collaborators too. So I was caught between 2 armies. Germans demanding food, partisans demanding food. My family eating scraps, and the war grinding north, slowly, destroying everything in its path. June 1944. Allied advance. In June 1944, the Allies took Rome. Everyone said they'd be in Florence by August, then in Tuscany by September. Then we'd be liberated. We just had to survive until then. But the Germans were digging in. The Gothic Line ran through the mountains north of us. They were going to make the Allies pay for every meter, which meant my farm, my beautiful farm, was about to become a battlefield. German engineers came in July. They cut down my olive trees to clear fields of fire. They dug trenches through my vineyards. They built machine gun nests in my barn. They laid mines in my wheat fields. "This is necessary," Captain Schneider told me, "for defense." "This is my land," I said, "4 generations. My grandfather planted those olive trees." "Your grandfather is dead. Trees can be replanted. Now get your family to the cellar. The Americans will be here soon." July-August 1944. The battle. The battle for my farm lasted 3 days. It started with artillery, American shells screaming overhead, exploding in my fields. The house shook. Plaster fell from the ceiling. My children cried. Anna held them in the cellar while I watched through a crack in the stone wall. My vineyard disappeared in fire and smoke. The barn exploded when a shell hit the ammunition the Germans had stored there. The olive grove, what was left of it, turned into a cratered moonscape. Then came the infantry, Americans advancing across my fields, Germans firing from the trenches they'd dug in my land, machine guns, rifles, mortars, men screaming, men dying, men bleeding into the soil my family had farmed for 100 years. The battle moved back and forth for 3 days. Germans counterattacked. Americans pushed forward, back and forth, back and forth. My farm was the prize nobody wanted, but everyone needed. On the 3rd day, an American shell hit the house, direct hit on the south wall. The bedroom, where I'd slept for 20 years, where my children were born, was gone. Just rubble. We huddled in the cellar. Paolo was crying. Maria was praying. Giuseppe tried to be brave, but I could see terror in his eyes. Anna held them all while I wondered, would we survive this? Would any of us? Finally, on August 2nd, 1944, silence. The Germans had pulled back. The Americans had won. My farm was liberated. I climbed out of the cellar into hell. August 1944. Liberation. The farmhouse was a ruin. Half the roof gone. Walls collapsed. Everything inside destroyed or looted. The barn was gone completely. The vineyards were burned. The olive grove looked like the surface of the moon. Unexploded shells and mines were everywhere, and there were bodies, German soldiers in the trenches, American soldiers in my fields, young men who died fighting over land they'd never seen before and would never see again. American soldiers were moving through, checking for survivors, clearing the battlefield. A sergeant approached me, a big man, tired, covered in dust. "You live here?" he asked in broken Italian. "I did. I don't know what I have now." He looked around at the destruction. "Sorry about your place. War is hell." Sorry. He was sorry. His army had just destroyed my farm, and he was sorry. But I understood. He hadn't wanted this either. None of them had. They were just soldiers following orders, same as the Germans, same as everyone. "You have food?" he asked. "Water? Your family okay?" "We're alive. No food, no water. Everything is destroyed." He called over another soldier. "They brought us sea rations, American military food in cans, crackers, canned beef, chocolate, the first proper meal we'd eaten in months. My children ate like wolves." Paolo cried while eating the chocolate. He'd never tasted anything so sweet. "We'll send civil affairs," the sergeant said. "They'll help. For now, stay away from the fields. Mines everywhere. Don't touch anything metal." Then they moved on, north, chasing the retreating Germans, leaving us in the ruins of our lives. August 1944, May 1945, survival. The Americans pushed north toward the Gothic Line. The fighting continued in the mountains. We could hear artillery day and night, see flashes in the sky. The war hadn't ended. It had just moved away from us. We lived in the cellar. The house wasn't safe. Walls could collapse. Rain came through the missing roof. So we lived underground like animals, like peasants from the Middle Ages. I tried to salvage what I could, dug up vegetables from the garden, found some chickens that had survived hidden in the ruins, collected rainwater, scrounged for anything useful in the wreckage. But there was no farming. The fields were mined. The equipment was destroyed. I had no seeds, no tools, no animals, no way to work the land even if it had been safe. We survived on American handouts. Civil affairs teams came through every few weeks, distributing food, medicine, basic supplies, survival rations, enough to not starve, but it wasn't living. It was existing, waiting for what I didn't know. Winter 1944-1945 was the hardest. Cold, wet, hungry. Giuseppe got sick, pneumonia, and we had no medicine. An American medic saved his life with penicillin. A miracle drug, he called it. A miracle that my son lived. In April 1945, the Germans finally surrendered. The war in Italy was over. Everyone celebrated. Liberation, freedom, victory. I felt nothing. What had we won? I looked at my destroyed farm and felt nothing but emptiness. May 1945. The aftermath. The war was over, but my problems were just beginning. The farm was in ruins. The land was full of mines and unexploded ordnance. The equipment was destroyed. The animals were dead or stolen. The olive trees were gone. The vines were dead. The house was barely standing. And I had no money, no savings. The war had taken everything. The banks were barely functioning. The economy was destroyed. The lira was worthless. I went to the commune, the local government office, to ask for help. "What do you want me to do?" the official said. He was new. The old fascist officials had fled or been arrested. This man was overwhelmed, dealing with thousands of desperate people. "Everyone's in the same situation. No money, no resources. The government in Rome is barely functioning. I can't help you." Then what am I supposed to do? Rebuild, same as everyone else. Italy will rise again. Rise again. With what? Hope? Prayers? Magic? I went to the bank. I need a loan to buy equipment, seeds, animals, to restart my farm. The banker laughed, actually laughed. A loan? With what collateral? Land full of mines that can't be farmed? A house that's falling down? Even if I wanted to lend you money, which I don't, the bank has no money to lend. Nobody has money. I went to neighbors, other farmers. Everyone had the same story. Everything destroyed. No help coming, no way forward. We're finished, one old farmer told me. This land is cursed now, soaked in blood and poison. It'll never produce again. Maybe he was right. Maybe the land was dead. Maybe we were all dead and just didn't know it yet. Summer 1945. Despair. By summer 1945, I'd given up. Not formally, not with words, but in my heart, I'd surrendered. I couldn't rebuild the farm alone. I didn't have the resources, the money, the tools, the energy. I was 41 years old and felt ancient, broken. Anna tried to stay hopeful. We'll manage, she said. We always manage. But I could see the fear in her eyes. She knew the truth. We were living on charity, American food aid, Red Cross supplies, handouts from relief organizations. We were beggars, and winter was coming. What would we do when the aid stopped, when the Americans went home, when we were left alone in this destroyed country with no way to support ourselves? I thought about leaving, abandoning the farm, moving to a city, finding work in a factory. But doing what? I was a farmer. I knew farming, nothing else. And the cities were worse, overcrowded, no jobs, no food. We were trapped. One night in July, I walked out to what remained of the vineyard. It was late. Everyone else was asleep. The moon was full, casting silver light over the dead vines and cratered earth. I knelt in the dirt my grandfather had farmed, my father had farmed, I had farmed. 4 generations. Ended. Dead. I cried. For the first time since the war started, I let myself cry. For my farm. For my family's future. For the life I'd had and lost. For the man I'd been who didn't exist anymore. I prayed, though I wasn't sure I believed anymore. God, if you're there, if you're listening, I need help. I can't do this alone. I don't know what to do. Please, send me something, anything, a sign, hope, something. No answer, just silence and moonlight and dead vines. I went back to the cellar, back to my sleeping family, and tried to imagine a future that didn't feel like a slow death. September 1945. The Americans are leaving. In September, word spread that the American army was pulling out, consolidating, going home. The war was over. Their job was done. Some people celebrated, good riddance to occupiers. But I felt panic. The Americans had been feeding us, providing medicine, keeping order. What happened when they left? The Civil Affairs Office was closing. The last officer, Captain Williams, was a kind man who'd helped my family several times. What will we do? I asked him. When you leave? The Italian government will take over, he said. Relief organizations, the Red Cross, you'll be taken care of. The Italian government has nothing. The Red Cross has nothing. Everyone has nothing. Williams looked uncomfortable. I'm sorry. I wish we could do more, but we're needed elsewhere. The war in Japan just ended. Men want to go home. You understand? I understood. We were yesterday's problem. Yesterday's war. Time to move on. But we couldn't move on. We were stuck here, in the ruins, forever. October 1945, rock bottom. By October, we'd reached the end. Our food supplies were almost gone. Winter was coming. The house still had no roof. Giuseppe's pneumonia came back, worse this time. Maria was coughing. Paolo was losing weight. Anna and I lay awake at night, not talking, both thinking the same thing. How do we keep our children alive through winter? I considered desperate options. Joining the men who were turning to crime, black market theft, robbery. The police were overwhelmed. Nobody would stop me. But I wasn't a criminal. I was a farmer, even if I couldn't farm anymore. On October 18th, a letter came from the commune. Official seal, bureaucratic language. Due to unpaid taxes and inability to maintain productive use of land, the property known as Podere Russo is hereby subject to assessment for potential seizure. They were going to take my farm. The land my family had owned for 4 generations. Take it because I couldn't pay taxes on land. I couldn't farm because their war had destroyed it. I read the letter 3 times. Then I walked out to the ruined vineyard with my grandfather's hunting rifle. The one thing the armies hadn't taken. I sat in the dirt, rifle across my lap, and thought about ending it. 1 shot. No more problems, no more failure, no more watching my children starve. Anna found me. She sat down beside me. Didn't say anything. Just sat there. I failed them, I said finally. Failed you. Failed the children. Failed everyone. You haven't failed. Look around. Everything is gone. We're going to lose the land. My children are sick and hungry. What kind of father lets this happen? A father who's doing his best in impossible circumstances. A father who survived a war, who kept his family alive when thousands died, who hasn't given up even when he has every reason to. I want to give up. I know, but you won't, because that's not who you are. You're Marco Russo, 4th generation. This land is in your blood. You don't quit. She took the rifle gently. Come inside. We'll figure something out. We always do. I let her take the rifle, followed her back to the cellar, but I didn't believe her. There was nothing to figure out. We were beaten. I didn't know that everything was about to change. I didn't know that the next morning, help would arrive from the last place I expected. I didn't know that the Americans who destroyed my farm were about to save it. October 19th, 1945. They came back. I was in the field, the one that didn't have mines, trying to dig out rocks to sell for construction material. Desperate work, backbreaking, pointless. But what else could I do? I heard engines, trucks, coming up the road to my farm. My first thought, the commune, coming to take my land. I grabbed a shovel. I'd fight them. I'd lose, but I'd fight. But it wasn't the commune. It was Americans. 3 trucks. Big green military vehicles. They stopped in front of the ruined farmhouse. Soldiers climbed out. And equipment. A lot of equipment. An officer approached. A captain, young, maybe 30. He had a translator with him. Are you Marco Russo, owner of this property? Yes. What do you want? I was angry, tired, ready to fight anyone. I'm Captain Morrison, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. We're here as part of the Emergency Relief Program. We've been assigned to help restore agricultural production in this region. He gestured at my destroyed farm. Starting with you. I stared at him. What? We're going to help you rebuild your farm, clear the mines, repair the house, provide equipment, seeds, animals, get you back to producing food. Why? Because Italy needs food. Because helping you helps everyone. Because... He hesitated. Because we broke it, and we should fix it. I stood there, shovel in hand, covered in dirt, staring at this American officer who wanted to help me, to rebuild what his army had destroyed. I don't understand. Why would you help? You won. You don't owe us anything. Maybe not legally, but morally. Yeah, I think we do. Morrison looked around at the destruction. War is hell. We all did terrible things. But the war's over now. Now we rebuild. Now we help each other. That's how we make sure this never happens again. He held out his hand. So what do you say? Will you let us help? I looked at his hand. An American hand, an enemy hand. The hand of people who destroyed my farm, killed my neighbors, torn my country apart. But also the hand of people who'd liberated us, fed us, saved my son's life, and now wanted to give me back my future. I took his hand. Yes, I said, voice breaking. Yes, please help me. October 19th, 1945. They worked. The Americans didn't just talk. They worked. Engineers swept the fields with mine detectors, removed unexploded ordnance, cleared the debris, marked safe zones. Construction teams patched the farmhouse roof, fixed walls, installed new windows, made it livable again. They brought equipment. A small tractor, American-made, powerful, efficient, plows, harrows, tools, everything I needed. They brought seeds, wheat for winter planting, vegetables for the kitchen garden, even grapevines, young ones, but they'd grow. They brought animals, a milk cow, chickens, 2 pigs, a horse for ploughing, and they worked alongside me. Captain Morrison himself helped dig drainage ditches. Soldiers who'd fought in the battle for my farm now worked to restore it. It was surreal, beautiful, impossible. "Why are you doing this?" I asked Morrison one evening. We were repairing a fence together. The sun was setting over the hills. My hills, finally mine again. "Lots of reasons," he said. "Official reason? Marshall's already talking about a plan to rebuild Europe, make sure communism doesn't spread, help economic recovery, enlightened self-interest." And the unofficial reason, he hammered a post. "I fought across Italy, Sicily to the Gothic Line. I saw what we did, the destruction. The civilians caught in between, old men, women, children. People like you who just wanted to farm and got caught in someone else's war." He paused. "My family has a farm in Ohio. My dad grows corn. If someone destroyed his farm, I'd want someone to help him rebuild. Golden rule, you know, do unto others. But we were enemies. Were. Past tense. Now we're just people. You're just a farmer who needs help. I'm just a soldier who can provide it. Everything else, countries, politics, past wars, that stuff doesn't matter as much as it should." That night, I stood in the repaired farmhouse. My family was upstairs, in actual bedrooms with actual beds the Americans had brought. They were eating dinner, real food, fresh vegetables, milk from our cow. Anna came down to find me. I was standing in the main room crying. "Marco, what's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Everything is right. Finally, everything is right." I told her about Morrison, about the Americans working to fix what they'd broken, about the equipment and seeds and animals, about the future that suddenly existed again. "We're going to survive," I said. "We're actually going to survive. We can rebuild. The farm, our lives, everything." Anna hugged me. We stood there in our repaired house, holding each other, crying together. For the first time since 1943, we had hope. November 1945. First planting. On November 1st, I planted wheat in the cleared fields, my fields, clean, safe, ready for crops again. Giuseppe helped. He was healthy now, proper food and medicine had saved him. Maria scattered seeds, even little Paolo helped carrying water. Captain Morrison and his team were still there. They'd stayed longer than planned because the work took time, but they were leaving soon, back to America, home. "I don't know how to thank you," I told Morrison. "You gave me back my life. You did the work. We just provided tools." "No, you provided hope. That's more valuable than tools," Morrison smiled. "Then pay it forward. When someone else needs help, remember this. Help them. That's how we rebuild the world." On November 15th, the Americans left. We stood by the road, my whole family, and waved as the trucks drove away. Some villagers waved too. Others watched silently, still unsure about Americans, about help from former enemies. But I knew. The Americans had saved my farm, saved my family, saved my future, and I would never forget. December 1945. Growing. Winter came, but this winter was different. We had a roof, heat, food, security. The wheat grew, green shoots pushing through the dark earth. Life returning to land that had been dead. Neighbors started coming by, asking questions. "How did you do it? Who helped you? Can they help us?" I told them about Morrison, about the Americans, about the help available if they asked for it, about swallowing pride and accepting assistance from former enemies. Some refused. Pride is powerful, stronger than hunger sometimes. But others asked, And more American teams came. More farms were restored, more equipment distributed, more hope spreading across the Tuscan countryside. By Christmas, things weren't good, but they were better, possible. We could see a future beyond just survival. On Christmas Eve, we had a modest celebration. Fresh bread, flour from the commune, wine I'd hidden from the Germans, chicken from our new flock. My family together, healthy, safe, alive. We said grace. I looked at my children's faces. They were smiling. Actually smiling. When had I last seen them smile? Thank you, God, I prayed, for sending help when I'd given up, for bringing Americans who chose to heal instead of just hurt, for giving us another chance. I don't know why we deserved it, but thank you. Later, alone in the repaired farmhouse, I thought about Morrison's words. Pay it forward, help others, rebuild the world. I could do that. I would do that. But first, I had to finish rebuilding my own life. The wheat was growing, the olive trees would recover, the vines would need time, but they'd produce again. The land that had been dead was coming back to life, and so was I. January 1946. New year, new life. The new year came with cold but clear skies. The wheat fields were a carpet of green. Every morning I'd walk through them, checking growth, pulling weeds, making sure everything was healthy. It was more than farming. It was proof that life could return, that destruction wasn't permanent, that with help and hope and hard work, anything could be restored. Giuseppe started helping me regularly. He was 15 now, strong, capable. He'd grown up too fast during the war, but he was finding his way back to being a boy. Sometimes I'd catch him smiling while working, playing with Paolo between chores, normal childhood moments we'd thought were gone forever. "Papa," he asked me one morning while we were mending fences, "why did the Americans help us? We fought against them. We were fascists." "We weren't fascists. Mussolini was. The government was. We were just farmers caught in someone else's war." But Italy was their enemy. For a while. But war ends. Enemies become friends. Happens all the time throughout history. The key is knowing when to stop fighting and start rebuilding. He thought about that. "Will you teach me to farm properly?" My throat tightened. "You want to be a farmer after everything? You could do something else. Study, leave, make a different life. This is my life. This land, our family's land. Someone has to continue it. Why not me?" I put my hand on his shoulder. "Then yes, I'll teach you everything I know, everything my father taught me, everything his father taught him. The land will be yours someday. You'll take care of it better than I did." "You took care of it fine, Papa. You survived a war, kept us alive, rebuilt when most people would have given up. That's taking care of it. Sometimes children understand things better than adults." February 1946. The village changes. By February, the American Assistance Program had reached more farms, more equipment arrived, more seeds distributed, more animals. The countryside was waking up from a nightmare. In the village, attitudes toward Americans started shifting. The old men who'd hated them, who'd remembered the war, the destruction, the occupation, still grumbled. But even they couldn't deny the Americans were helping. Not occupying, not exploiting, helping. Young people were learning English, talking to American soldiers, trading goods, building friendships. The war generation might never forgive, but the next generation was already moving on. I met with other farmers to coordinate planting, share equipment, help each other. The Americans had given us tools, but we had to use them wisely, work together, support each other. "Remember when we all hated each other?" one farmer said. "Accused each other of collaborating, hoarding food. Those were dark days." "Those days are over," another replied. "We're neighbors again, Italians again, not fascists or anti-fascists or collaborators, just farmers trying to survive." It wasn't that simple. Old wounds ran deep. Families still weren't speaking because of things done or said during the war, but it was a start. Healing would take time. Same as the land. March 1946, first harvest. In late March, we harvested the winter wheat. Not a huge crop. The land was still recovering, nutrients depleted by war and neglect. But it was a crop, real food, growing from our land. I stood at the edge of the field, watching Giuseppe and Maria bundle stalks. American equipment, the tractor, the thresher made the work easier than it had ever been. What would have taken us weeks with hand tools took days with machines. Anna came out with lunch, fresh bread, cheese, wine. We sat together under an olive tree, one that had survived, gnarled and scarred, but alive. "Do you remember the last harvest?" Anna asked. "Before the war." 1942. Different world. We were different people. Are we better now, after everything? I thought about that. Not better. Just different. We know things we didn't know before. About suffering, about loss, about how quickly everything can be taken away. But also about resilience, about hope, about strangers becoming friends. "About Americans," she said with a smile. "Yes, about Americans, about how wrong we can be about people when we only see them as enemies." That night, we had fresh bread made from our own wheat. The taste was incredible. Not because it was particularly good bread, Anna was out of practice baking, but because it represented everything, our survival, our rebuilding, our future. April 1946. The crisis. April brought the crisis that would define everything. A letter from the commune. Not about taxes this time, about land reform. The new Italian government, democracy not fascism, was considering breaking up large estates, redistributing land to landless peasants. My farm wasn't a large estate, 30 hectares. But it was bigger than many. Some politicians wanted to take it, give pieces to others. Social justice, they called it. I was terrified. After everything, the war, the destruction, the rebuilding, they wanted to take my land, the land my family had owned for 4 generations, the land I'd just restored with American help. I went to the commune, demanded answers. The official, same overwhelmed man from before, tried to explain. "It's not personal, it's policy. Italy needs reform. Land concentration is part of why fascism happened. We need to spread ownership, create a stable middle class. I am middle class. I'm not a rich landowner. I'm a farmer. This is survival land, not luxury. I understand, but the policy is theft, legal theft. You're taking what my family built," I was shouting. People were staring. I didn't care. I'd survived German occupation, Allied invasion, starvation, destruction. I'd rebuilt with American help, and now my own government wanted to destroy me. I left angry, scared, helpless again. That night, I couldn't sleep. I went outside, looked at my fields, my wheat, my olive trees, my life. Was I going to lose it all? Not to war this time, but to bureaucracy? Anna found me. "What will we do?" "I don't know. Fight. Somehow. I didn't survive everything just to lose the land to politicians." "Maybe talk to Captain Morrison, the Americans? He's gone. Back to America. They all are. But there are still American officials. The embassy. Someone." She was right. The Americans had helped rebuild my farm. Surely they didn't want it taken away. April 15th, 1946. Which brings us to today, which brings us back to where this story started. April 15th, 1946. Me standing in my vineyard, holding the letter from the commune, shaking with anger and fear and exhaustion. The wheat is growing, the trees are recovering, my family is healthy, everything is finally getting better. And now this. One more threat, one more crisis, one more fight. But I'm not giving up. Not now, not after everything. Morrison said to pay it forward, to help others. But first, I have to protect what I've rebuilt, protect my family's land, our future. Tomorrow I'll go to the American consulate in Florence. I'll explain. I'll beg if I have to. I'll ask them to intervene, to protect what they helped create. I don't know if they'll help. They've already done so much. Why would they do more? But I have to try. Because this land is worth fighting for. My family is worth fighting for. The future we've rebuilt from ashes is worth protecting. The sun is setting over my fields. The wheat ripples in the evening breeze like a green ocean. My children are in the house laughing. Anna is cooking dinner with vegetables from our garden. This is life, real life, hard-won, precious, fragile. And I'm not letting anyone take it away. April 16th, 1946. Florence, American Consulate. The building is intimidating. 3 stories of stone and marble, American flag hanging above the entrance. Guards at the door. Everything official and foreign and powerful. I'm just a farmer in my best clothes, the only suit I own, old and patched but clean. My hands are calloused and stained from soil. I smell like the farm no matter how much I scrub. I don't belong here, but I'm here anyway. I wait in the reception area for 2 hours. Officials come and go, speaking English, carrying important-looking documents. Nobody looks at me. I'm invisible. Just another Italian with problems nobody cares about. Finally, a secretary approaches. "Signor Russo, Mr. Henderson will see you now." I follow her down a hallway lined with photographs of American presidents. Washington, Lincoln, Roosevelt. These men who'd shaped history. And I'm just Marco Russo trying to save 30 hectares of Tuscan farmland. Mr. Henderson's office is large, windows overlooking Florence, a massive desk. American efficiency everywhere. Henderson himself is maybe 50, grey hair, tired eyes. He's seen too many desperate Italians with impossible requests. "Signor Russo," he says in decent Italian, "I understand you're having difficulties with land reform policies." I explain. The letter from the commune. The threat to break up my property, everything I'd survived, everything the Americans had helped me rebuild. And now my own government wanting to take it. Henderson listens, takes notes. His expression is professionally neutral. "I appreciate your situation," he says when I finish, "but you must understand, land reform is an internal Italian matter. The American government cannot interfere with domestic policy decisions." "But you helped rebuild my farm. Your soldiers, Captain Morrison, the equipment came from America." Emergency relief, humanitarian assistance. That's different from political interference. "So you'll help me plant wheat but not keep my land? You'll give me a tractor but not protect what I grow with it?" Henderson sighs. "Signor Russo, I understand your frustration. But Italy is a sovereign nation. We can't—" "Then what was the point?" My voice rises. People in the hallway are probably staring. I don't care. What was the point of rebuilding if it just gets taken away? What was the point of hope if it's false? The point was saving lives, preventing starvation. That's what we did. That's what we'll continue doing. But political decisions, those are for Italians to make. I stand up. "Then I've wasted your time and mine. Thank you for nothing." "Wait." Henderson stands too. "Sit down, please." I hesitate, then sit. "I can't make promises," Henderson says carefully, "but there are conversations happening at higher levels about European recovery, about preventing communist expansion, about long-term stability." "What kind of conversations?" "The kind that might make your land reform problem irrelevant. Give me some time. Keep farming. Don't give up yet." "How much time?" "Weeks. Maybe months." "Can you wait that long?" I think about my family, my wheat, my future hanging by a thread. I don't have a choice. May 1946. Waiting. The next month is torture. Every day I expect officials to arrive, to measure my land, to tell me what I'm losing, to destroy everything again. But nothing happens. The commune sends no more letters. No officials appear, just silence. I farm, plant vegetables, tend the wheat, care for animals. Work helps, keeps my mind busy, keeps despair at bay. Other farmers are less fortunate. 2 neighbors receive notices. Their land will be redistributed. They rage, they cry, they can do nothing. Why you and not me, one asks. Your farm is bigger than mine. Why are they taking mine? I have no answer. Luck? Timing? American intervention I can't prove? I don't know. Giuseppe notices my tension. Papa, what's wrong? Nothing, just worried about the harvest. You're always worried about the harvest. This is different. He's perceptive, too perceptive. We might lose the farm. The government wants to take some of it, give it to others. His face goes pale. Can they do that? Yes, it's legal, it's policy, it's complicated. But we just rebuilt. The Americans helped us. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, son. War taught us that. We just have to endure. Survive. Hope. I'm tired of just surviving. I want to live. Me too. Me too. June 5th, 1947. The announcement. More than a year passes. A year of waiting, working, worrying. Spring becomes summer. Summer becomes fall. Fall becomes winter. Winter becomes spring again. The wheat harvest is good. Better than the year before. The land is recovering. Production increasing. We're almost back to pre-war levels. And still no decision about the land reform. Then, on June 5th, 1947, everything changes. News spreads through the village like wildfire. The Americans have announced something huge, something called the Marshall Plan. Billions of dollars, billions, to rebuild Europe. I hear about it at the market in Montepulciano. Everyone is talking, arguing, trying to understand what it means. It's a trick, one man says. The Americans want to control us, make us dependent. It's salvation, another replies. Real investment, real help, not just charity, partnership. I buy a newspaper. Read the details. Secretary Marshall speaking at Harvard University. Europe's recovery is essential to American security. Economic aid, technical assistance, long-term investment in rebuilding. Conditions included economic cooperation, transparency, democratic governance. Essentially, stop fighting each other, work together, be stable, and we'll help you rebuild. For Italy, it means end the political chaos, form a stable government, implement reasonable economic policies. Then the money flows. Suddenly I understand what Henderson meant. Conversations happening at higher levels, land reform that destroys productive farms, that makes farmers desperate, that creates instability. That doesn't fit the Marshall Plan vision. That doesn't build stability. That builds resentment and chaos. If Italy wants American money, and Italy desperately needs American money, it needs to prove it can make smart decisions. Not ideological decisions. Smart ones. I go back to Florence. Back to the consulate. Same secretary. Same waiting room. But this time Henderson sees me immediately. Signor Russo, I was expecting you. The Marshall Plan. Does it change things for my farm? Henderson smiles. Actually smiles. The Italian government has decided to revise its land reform proposals, focus on truly unproductive estates, large holdings owned by absentee landlords, not working farms owned by families who actually work the land. So I keep my farm. You keep your farm, provided you keep it productive. Keep employing people, keep contributing to the local economy, basically keep doing what you're doing. I feel like I might pass out. Thank you, thank you. I don't know how to... Don't thank me. Thank Secretary Marshall. Thank your own productivity. Thank the fact that you prove productive family farms are worth protecting. He pauses. And maybe thank Captain Morrison. He wrote several reports about the emergency relief program, about farmers like you, about investments worth protecting. His reports were read by people who matter. Morrison. Even back in America, he was still helping, still building bridges. There's more, Henderson continues. Marshall Plan funds will be available for agricultural development, equipment, infrastructure, technical training. If you want to expand, modernize, improve, there will be resources available. More help? Not charity, investment, loans at good rates, technical assistance, education programs. The goal is making Italian agriculture competitive, self-sufficient, modern. Why? Why do Americans care so much about Italian farms? Because hungry people vote for extremists. Because economically stable countries don't start wars. Because helping you rebuild Italy helps everyone, including America. He smiles again. Call it enlightened self-interest, or call it what Captain Morrison called it, paying forward. I leave the consulate walking on air. The farm is safe. The future is real. Everything Morrison promised, hope, rebuilding, moving forward, it's all happening. June 1947, expansion. Within weeks of the Marshall Plan announcement, things start moving fast. An Italian government agricultural officer visits my farm. He's young, enthusiastic, trained by Americans. He walks my fields with a clipboard, taking notes, measuring, assessing. "You have good land," he says, "properly managed. What are your production goals? Keep doing what I'm doing, survive, feed my family? Think bigger. With Marshall Plan resources, you could double production, modernize completely, become a model farm for the region." Double production, model farm, words I'd never imagined using. He explains the opportunities: low-interest loans for equipment, subsidized fertilizer, technical training programs, cooperative structures for sharing expensive equipment, market development for exports. Italy doesn't just need to feed itself, he says. We need to export, earn foreign currency, compete internationally. Tuscan wine, olive oil, wheat, these can be premium products, but we need modern farming, better yields, higher quality. Are you interested? Am I interested in success, in prosperity, in a future beyond mere survival? Yes. Tell me what I need to do. July-December 1947, transformation. The next 6 months are a whirlwind. I attend training programs, learn about crop rotation, soil chemistry, modern irrigation, pest management, techniques developed in America, adapted for Italian conditions. I buy new equipment with a Marshall Plan loan, not just one tractor, 2, a mechanical harvester, modern plows, spraying equipment, things I'd seen in magazines but never imagined owning. I plant new grape varieties. American agricultural experts recommend Sangiovese cultivation techniques that increase yield and quality. I follow their advice. My vineyard, destroyed in 1944, is being reborn better than before. I hire workers, 3 men from the village who need jobs. I pay them fair wages. They help work the expanded production. Everyone benefits. Giuseppe becomes my right hand. At 17, he's running equipment, managing workers, learning business. He's not just a farmer anymore. He's an agricultural entrepreneur. Other farmers watch, some with suspicion. Marco's getting rich on American money. But others with interest. If he can do it, why can't we? I help them, share knowledge, coordinate equipment sharing, form a cooperative. Just like Morrison said, pay it forward, build together, help each other. By December 1947, my farm isn't just recovered, it's thriving. Production is double pre-war levels. I'm employing people, exporting wine, making real money, not just surviving, prospering. Spring 1948, the visitors. In April 1948, I get a letter from the Agricultural Ministry. Important American officials are visiting Italy to inspect Marshall Plan projects. They want to tour successful farms. Mine is on the list. I panic. Important officials? My farm? I'm just a farmer. But Anna insists. They helped save us. The least we can do is show them what we've built. So we prepare, clean everything, organize the equipment, make the house presentable. Giuseppe practices explaining our operation in English. He's been learning from American technical advisors. On April 14, 1948, 3 black cars drive up to my farm. Out step American officials in suits, agricultural experts, a photographer, and, my heart stops, Captain Morrison. He's out of uniform, civilian clothes, older looking, but it's him. "Signor Russo." He walks forward, hand extended. "It's good to see you again." I grab his hand. "Captain Morrison, I didn't know. They didn't say. I'm with the Agricultural Advisory Committee now, civilian capacity, helping implement Marshall Plan programs. When I saw your farm on the inspection list, I insisted on coming." The other officials tour the farm. Giuseppe gives them the explanation in careful English. They examine equipment, walk the fields, take photographs, ask questions, seem impressed. Morrison and I walk the vineyard together. The vines are young but healthy, green shoots reaching for the sun. In a few years, they'll produce premium wine. "You've done incredible work," Morrison says. "This is exactly what we hoped for. A successful family operation, productive, employing people, contributing to the economy. This is the model. You made it possible. Without your help in 1945, I'd have nothing, probably wouldn't even be alive. We helped, but you did the work. You made the choices. You rebuilt." We stand in silence looking at the vineyard. The very vineyard that had been destroyed in the battle. That had been a cratered wasteland, that now was green and alive and productive. "Do you know what this means?" Morrison says quietly. "What we're seeing here, this is proof. Proof that former enemies can become partners. Proof that investment in people works. Proof that rebuilding is possible. Will it last? The Marshall Plan? American support? I think so. People see the results. Farms like yours. Factories reopening. Cities rebuilding. Europe recovering. It works. So we'll keep doing it. And when it ends? When America doesn't need to help anymore?" Morrison smiles. "By then you won't need help. You'll be self-sufficient, successful, and maybe you'll help someone else. Some other farmer in some other country recovering from some other disaster. That's how it works. That's how the world gets better. One farm at a time. One person at a time." Summer 1948, Harvest Festival. In August 1948, our village holds a harvest festival. The first since before the war. A celebration, music, food, dancing, life returning to normal. Tables line the town square. Every farm contributes food, wine, bread, cheese, olives, vegetables, an abundance we hadn't seen in a decade. Americans are there too. Technical advisors, agricultural experts. Some soldiers still stationed in Italy. They're welcome now, celebrated, part of the community. I watched Giuseppe dancing with a local girl, Maria helping serve food, Paolo playing with other children, all of them smiling, healthy, happy, normal. Anna squeezes my hand. "Remember when you had the rifle? In the vineyard? When you'd given up?" Every day, that moment changed everything. You saved me that night. No, the Americans saved you the next morning. I just stopped you from doing something stupid before they arrived. We laugh. It's okay to laugh now, to remember dark moments and survive them, to acknowledge how close we came to losing everything. "Do you still hate them?" Anna asks. "The Americans for what they did during the war? I don't think I ever really hated them. I hated the war, the destruction, the loss. But them, they were just soldiers, like the Germans, like everyone, just people caught in something bigger than themselves. And now I'm grateful, not just for the help, but for the lesson. That enemies don't have to stay enemies. That destruction doesn't have to be permanent. That with help and hope and hard work, anything can be rebuilt." A band starts playing. American jazz mixed with Italian folk music, a cultural fusion, people dancing together, Americans and Italians, former enemies becoming friends. Morrison finds me in the crowd. "Beautiful festival. Thank you for coming, for everything." I should thank you. Seeing this, seeing what you've built, what Italy's building, it makes everything worth it. The war, the sacrifices, the investment, it's all worth it when you see results like this. Will you tell them, in America, about us, about what their money is doing? I will. I'll write reports, give speeches, show photographs. I'll make sure Americans know the Marshall Plan works. Helping former enemies works. Investment in peace is better than preparation for war. October 1948. My turn to help. In October, a farmer comes to me, Michel. His farm is 20 kilometers away. It's struggling. He needs advice. I hear you're successful, he says. I hear the Americans helped you. Can you help me? I remember Morrison's words. Pay it forward. Yes, tell me what you need. Michel's problems are familiar. Old equipment, inefficient practices, no capital for improvements. The same problems I'd had. But now I have knowledge, experience, resources. I help him apply for a Marshall Plan loan, introduce him to agricultural advisors, teach him what I've learned about crop rotation and pest management, share equipment through our cooperative. Within months, Michel's farm is improving. Not as dramatic as mine. His land isn't as good, but better, sustainable, hopeful. He's grateful, embarrassingly grateful. I can never repay you. You can. When another farmer needs help, help them. Pass it forward. That's how we rebuild Italy, not one farm at a time, all farms together. Others come, more farmers, some desperate, some just curious, all needing help. I give it, freely, because Morrison gave it to me freely. Because that's how rebuilding works, by lifting each other up. 1949-1950, prosperity. By 1949, my farm is unrecognizable from 1945. New house, built properly with American financing, modern barn, expanded vineyards producing excellent wine, olive grove restored, wheat fields productive, vegetables growing, animals healthy. I employ 8 people year-round, more during harvest. I pay good wages, contribute to the local economy. I'm not rich, far from it, but comfortable, secure, successful. Giuseppe is 20 now. He's talking about university, agricultural engineering. He wants to come back to the farm with modern knowledge, build it even better. You should go, I tell him, learn everything, then come back and show me what I'm doing wrong. He laughs. You're not doing anything wrong, Papa. I'm doing 1940s farming with 1940s knowledge. You can bring 1950s farming with 1950s knowledge. That's progress. That's how it should work. Maria wants to be a teacher, to educate the next generation, to make sure they understand history, all of it, not just propaganda, to teach them that former enemies can become friends, that peace is better than war. Paolo is only 12, but he's fascinated by machines, tractors, harvesters, everything mechanical. He'll probably be an engineer, build better equipment, help farmers everywhere. My children have futures, real futures, beyond mere survival. That's everything. 1951, 5 years after. On April 19th, 1951, almost exactly 5 years after my lowest moment, I stand in the vineyard. The same vineyard where I'd nearly given up, where I'd cried and prayed for help. The vines are mature now, heavy with grapes, beautiful. This year's harvest will be our best ever. The wine will be excellent, premium quality. We're getting export orders from Germany, France, even America. Giuseppe is beside me, home from university for the weekend. He's explaining new techniques he's learning, better grafting methods, disease resistance, yield optimization. Sometimes I can't believe this is the same land, he says, the same farm that was destroyed in 1944. It's not the same, it's better, because it was rebuilt with more than just Italian hands. It was rebuilt with American help, with hope, with modern knowledge, with cooperation. Do you still think about it? The war, the destruction? Every day. But not with anger anymore, with gratitude, because the war taught us things, hard lessons about what matters, about how quickly everything can be lost, about how to rebuild from nothing. A car comes up the road, black, official looking. For a moment I tense. Old fears die hard, but it's not officials coming to take my land. It's Morrison. He visits every year now, checks on Marshall Plan successes. My farm is always on his tour, a model case, proof that the investment works. Marco! He climbs out of the car. Grey hair now, glasses, but same warm smile. How's the harvest looking? Excellent. Best ever. You'll have to try this year's wine when it's ready. I'm looking forward to it. How's Giuseppe's studies? Giuseppe answers in fluent English. They discuss agriculture, education, future plans. 2 generations, 2 countries, working together, building together. After the tour, Morrison and I walk alone through the olive grove. Trees my grandfather planted. That survived the war. That now produce again. I'm retiring next year, Morrison says. Going back to Ohio, my dad's farm. He's getting old, needs help. You'll be missed. Here in Italy, you've done so much. I've done my part. But the work continues. New people, new programs. The Marshall Plan is winding down, but the relationships it built will last. The lessons learned will last. You'll last. What do you mean? Your farm, your success, the farmers you've helped. That's the legacy. Not the money we spent. Not the equipment we provided, but what you built with those resources. That's what matters. That's what endures. We stand in the grove, looking at trees that had survived war, at land that had been dead and was now alive, at proof that destruction doesn't have to be permanent. Thank you, I say, for everything, for saving my farm, my family, my life, my future. Thank you for proving it was worth doing, for showing that people can change, that enemies can become friends. That investment in peace pays dividends that war never could. 1956, 10 years after. April 15th, 1956, exactly 10 years after I stood in this vineyard, holding that letter from the commune, certain I was losing everything. The farm is thriving. Giuseppe has returned from university. He's implementing new techniques, expanding operations. He's better at this than I ever was. The student surpassing the teacher, as it should be. Maria is teaching at the regional school. Her students include Italian children and children of American military families still stationed in Italy. She's teaching them all, together, about history, about war, about peace, about how former enemies became partners. Paolo is studying engineering in Milan. He comes home on holidays, full of ideas about agricultural machinery. He wants to design better equipment for small farms, help farmers everywhere. Anna and I are grandparents. Giuseppe married last year. They have a baby daughter, Giulia. She'll grow up on this farm, 5th generation. The continuity that had seemed dead in 1946 is alive again. I'm 52 now, still strong, still farming, but transitioning, letting Giuseppe take over, becoming an advisor instead of a manager. That's healthy. That's good. The village has changed. New houses, new roads, new businesses. American investment transformed everything. Nobody's wealthy, but everyone has enough. Nobody's starving. Nobody's desperate. The Marshall Plan officially ended in 1951, but its effects continue. Italy is recovering, growing, modernizing. Part of a new Europe, democratic, cooperative, peaceful. Sometimes I think about the war years, the hunger, the fear, the destruction, the moment I almost gave up. It feels like another lifetime, another person, a ghost of who I was. But I don't regret it, because without that darkness, I wouldn't appreciate this light. Without losing everything, I wouldn't understand the value of what I've rebuilt. Without American help, I wouldn't know that enemies can become friends. 1965. A visitor from the past. In the summer of 1965, a young man arrives at my farm. American, college student, maybe 22. Are you Marco Russo? He asks in careful Italian. Yes. Who are you? Daniel Morrison. Captain Morrison was my father. My heart skips. Was? He passed away last year. Heart attack. He was on the farm in Ohio. He died doing what he loved. I invite Daniel inside. Anna makes coffee. We sit at the kitchen table, the same table where Morrison and I had planned the farm's rebuilding 19 years ago. My father talked about you, Daniel says. About this farm. About the work he did in Italy. He said this place was proof that helping former enemies works. That investment in peace is better than preparation for war. Your father saved my life, my family, my farm. Everything I have, I owe to him. He said you saved yourself, that all he did was provide tools, that you did the work. Perhaps, but without the tools, no work is possible. Without hope, no effort makes sense. Your father gave me both. Daniel looks around the kitchen, at the photographs on the wall, my family, my grandchildren, the farm through the years. Growth, life, success. He wanted me to see this, Daniel says, to understand what he did, why it mattered. He said his generation fought the war. My generation has to preserve the peace. He was right. Peace is harder than war. War is dramatic, exciting, clear. Peace is slow, boring, complicated. But peace builds, war only destroys. Tell me about it, about 1946, about when he helped you. I want to understand. So I tell him. Everything, the destruction, the despair, the moment I almost gave up, the day Morrison arrived, the rebuilding, the transformation, the lessons learned. Daniel listens, taking notes. He's studying history at university, writing about the Marshall Plan, about post-war reconstruction, about how Europe recovered. This is perfect, he says. This is exactly the kind of story that needs to be told. Not just statistics about money spent, but human stories, about people helped, lives rebuilt, futures created. Your father understood that. He didn't just see farms and crops and production numbers. He saw people, families, communities. That's why his help mattered, because it was personal. Before Daniel leaves, I give him a bottle of wine from our best vineyard, the vineyard that had been destroyed in 1944. That Morrison had helped rebuild in 1945, that now produces premium wine exported worldwide. Give this to your mother, I tell him. Tell her Marco Russo says thank you. Tell her that her husband's work lives on, in this farm, in this family, in this corner of Italy that refuses to forget the man who helped us rebuild. 1975. 30 years after. I'm 71 now, retired from daily farm work. Giuseppe runs everything, brilliantly. He's expanded operations, diversified crops, implemented organic methods. The farm is more successful than I ever imagined possible. Paolo, now a successful agricultural engineer, designed equipment specifically for small family farms. His innovations help farmers across Italy, across Europe. He pays forward the help we received. Maria retired from teaching last year, but she still gives lectures about the war, about post-war recovery, about the Marshall Plan, about how former enemies became partners. Her students, now adults, remember her lessons, teach them to their children. I'm a great-grandfather now. Giuseppe's daughter Giulia has children. 6th generation on this land. The continuity that had seemed dead in 1946 is thriving. On April 15, 1975, 29 years after my darkest day, I stand in the vineyard, same spot, same view, but everything different. Where there had been death, there's life. Where there had been craters, there are vines. Where there had been despair, there's hope. Where there had been enemies, there are friends. Anna is beside me. She's 68. Still beautiful, still the woman who'd stopped me from giving up, who'd believed when I couldn't. Do you ever regret it? She asks. Accepting American help? Some people still say we sold out, that we should have rebuilt on our own. Some people are fools. Pride is expensive. Survival matters more. We did what we had to do, and look at what we built. We look at the farm, at the house, the vineyards, the olive groves, the fields, the workers, the equipment, the life, the success, the future. Morrison was right, I say, about paying forward, about helping others, about building peace instead of preparing for war. Everything he said was right. You proved him right, by succeeding, by helping others, by refusing to let hatred win. That evening, the family gathers. 4 generations, 23 people, all connected to this land, all benefiting from decisions made 30 years ago, from help accepted when pride said refuse, from hope chosen when despair seemed reasonable. We eat dinner together, food from our farm, wine from our vineyard, olive oil from our grove. Everything we need, we produce. Everything we produce, we share. Giuseppe raises his glass. A toast to Nonno Marco, to the man who survived a war, rebuilt from nothing, and taught us all what really matters, to family, to land, to hard work, to accepting help when offered, to paying forward when able, to peace. Everyone drinks. I look around the table at faces I love, lives that exist because I didn't give up, because Morrison didn't give up, because sometimes enemies stop being enemies and become something better, friends, partners, builders of a better world. 2005, 60 years after. I'm 101 years old now, the last survivor from 1945. Everyone else from that time is gone. Morrison died in 1964, Anna in 1998. Most of my generation passed decades ago, but I'm still here, still on the farm, still watching it thrive. Giuseppe is 75. He runs the farm with his grandson, 7th generation. They're using techniques I don't understand, technology I can't comprehend. But it works. The farm produces more than ever, employs more people than ever, contributes more than ever. On April 15, 2005, they hold a ceremony, 60 years since Morrison first helped me rebuild. The commune designates my farm a historical site, places a plaque, Podere Russo, symbol of post-war recovery and Italian-American cooperation. Journalists come, historians, students. They want to hear about 1945, about the war, about Marshall Plan, about rebuilding, about Morrison, about how enemies became friends, I tell them. Again, the same story I've told 1,000 times, but it never gets old. Because it's true, because it matters, because people need to hear it. Do you hate Americans? A young journalist asks. For what they did during the war? I almost laugh. Hate? No, I'm grateful. They destroyed my farm fighting to liberate my country. Then they helped me rebuild it. They taught me that destruction doesn't have to be permanent, that enemies don't have to stay enemies, that with help and hope and hard work, anything is possible. Even forgiveness. Especially forgiveness. Hatred is easy, forgiveness is hard, but forgiveness is how you move forward. Forgiveness is how you build a future instead of staying trapped in the past. The ceremony ends. People leave. I'm alone in the vineyard. Same spot where I'd stood 60 years ago, holding that letter, certain I was losing everything. I kneel in the dirt, touch the soil, my grandfather's soil, my father's soil. My soil, Giuseppe's soil, my great-great-great-grandchildren's soil. Thank you, I whisper, to Morrison, to all the Americans who helped, to the land itself for surviving, to God for not giving up on me when I'd given up on myself. The sun sets over the Tuscan hills, golden light on green vines, peace, beauty, life. Exactly what we fought for, exactly what we built, exactly what we'll pass to the next generation. And I realize this is victory, not winning the war, not defeating enemies, but this, building, growing, living, loving, helping others, creating beauty from ashes, choosing hope over despair, choosing forgiveness over hatred, choosing life over death. This is what Morrison gave me. Not just tractors and seeds and tools, but the understanding that the best revenge against destruction is creation. The best response to war is peace. The best answer to hatred is love. I stand up. My old bones protest, but I stand, because I'm still here, still alive, still farming, still building, still proving that hope works, that help works, that enemies can become friends. And as long as I'm alive, I'll keep telling this story about an Italian farmer who lost everything, who almost gave up, who received help from former enemies, who rebuilt, who paid forward, who proved that the human spirit is stronger than any bomb, any bullet, any war, who proved that peace is always possible if we're brave enough to choose it. Thank you for staying with me through this journey from darkness to light. If this story reminded you that enemies don't have to stay enemies, that forgiveness is stronger than hatred, that rebuilding is better than revenge, then I need you to do something. Like this video and share it with someone who needs hope. Subscribe to this channel because stories like this matter more than ever in a world that seems determined to repeat old mistakes. And comment below. What would you have done in 1946? Would you have accepted help from the people who destroyed your world? Would you have chosen forgiveness over hatred? Your answer matters because these aren't just historical questions. They're choices we all face every day.